Hi everybody, this is Dean of DVR Productions, and in the lab and on the bench today we've got this 1947 Delco AM table radio that I'm restoring, and it's pretty much 90% done, but the topic of this video really isn't on the radio itself. It's going to be on the speaker. The one I have in here right now is a replacement that I put in because I thought the old one was so roached out and such bad shape that I didn't even want to mess with it or try to recone it or anything. But then I thought a little later that maybe I would produce a separate video doing that. So right now, I pulled out the old speaker. I just wanted you to take a look at this. This is what's left of virtually 73 years of use and storage. The bugs and the roaches and mice got to this thing really bad, and you can see it's just, there's not a whole lot left of it. And so I thought it would make a fun video just to see if we can recone this thing and maybe salvage it. And you're probably thinking, why would you want to do that when you could go out to eBay and probably pick one up for $10 or less? And, well, I thought, where's the fun in that? So maybe we'll just get into this and maybe recone it and see what we can do. What can go wrong, right? I initially thought, well, maybe I could get a rebuild kit, but then I thought, well, let's do this on the cheap. Let's really cheap out on this. And so I thought I'd maybe make my own recone kit. I've done these before. I've replaced the surrounds on them and things, and it's worked pretty well, but I've never gotten any deeper than that. And this one, if you'll notice, the spider is still in pretty good shape on it. It's not been eaten up at all, and the voice coil moves fairly freely. And one thing you probably really want to do before you get into anything like this is take an ohm meter and bring it out and see. Check the voice coil, see if it's any good or not. So we'll try this. And we'll just put on here. Looks like we got about 3.2 ohms on it, so doesn't look like the voice coil is damaged at all. So I think we're probably free to go on this thing. And what I was going to use for a cone is just some construction paper like this. I couldn't find any black, so this is the closest thing to it. So it'll be either a quite colorful voice speaker cone, or it'll be a quite weird looking thing if I decide to use a black magic marker and paint it up a little bit and make it look a little more like this one. But I thought, well, I'm going to have to figure out the diameter and all that. And looking around the desk, I spotted an old CD. And look at that. That is just a perfect fit on there. And so as an experiment, I traced it out on a piece of paper, just a white paper. Traced it out, cut it out. And it looks as though if we do this just right, we can probably fit that right in there just like that. And make that work quite well. And so that little experiment looks like turned out pretty well. So anyway, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. If this sounds interesting to you, just stay put. Okay, the first thing we probably want to do is to check out the paper thickness here. And so we'll bring out the old caliper and turn it on and get it all zeroed out. And we'll probably do this in imperial measurements here. And let's see what we're dealing with here. Looks like it's about 0.09 inches for thickness on that. And the paper we're using today, I imagine it's a little thicker, but looks like it's 0.01, so that's not too bad. I think we can probably live with that. Maybe the extra stiffness will give it a little more bass response, who knows. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to use that. Okay, now that we've got the Skycam out now, we can get started taking out the excess and old cone here. I'm going to borrow Vicky's manicure set here and see if I can carefully get some of this junk out of here. A lot of it I just tear out. Okay. And this, we'll have to be careful not to let that magnet pull the metal on this. I may speed up this video if it gets too long and boring trying to get this out of here, but you get the idea. This is going to be a little tedious, but now for the careful part here. I think I'm going to have to get a magnifier out to do this. So we don't want anything to fall down in the cone there, or not the cone, but the gap on the voice coil magnet. It's got some, if you can see it, it has some glue right over the, get up here and see if you can see that a little closer. All this is glue over here, and I don't know if I can dissolve that or what. But we'll do the best we can. Okay, I'm going to take some painter's tape and cover up this voice coil magnet opening so nothing will fall down in there that I'll have to fish out later. And I think we are getting ready to continue cleaning up the basket here a little bit. And I'm going to take a X-Acto knife with kind of a blunt end, and I want to get this gasket off of here, so see if we can get under that somehow. Wow. Yeah, I don't know what kind of glue they used back then, but it's held up pretty well over the years, I'd say. See if I can do this without slicing my hand open and making a trip to the emergency room. There we go. I think we got under it on that one. Yeah. I bet you guys are probably wondering, what am I going to use for a edge on this? Since get this out here, since the cone will be very like that, we need some kind of a rolled edge to keep the speaker in a state of compliance, so the cone will move. And I'm thinking what I will use is probably some felt. I've got some left over, and I think I'll just do a little surround with the felt. All right, getting ready to cut out our cone pattern, so we'll just lay the CD down here and trace around it. It's almost the perfect dimensions for what we're going to use this for. And simple as that. And so now we'll just cut this baby out. Now we'll cut one single slot up the middle, and then when we overlap it a little bit, we'll have a perfect cone, hopefully to fit inside our speaker. Now, another thing I decided to do on this was I think I'm going to unsolder these two from the terminals, and then poke a couple of holes inside the new cone here and feed them through there. And that'll probably eliminate the problem of somehow connecting these through the paper itself. Now this stuff is really flexible, so it's, let's see, get out the old soldering iron here and see if we can get these loose. Oh yeah, that came out real nice. Just like that. So there we go. So my plans are to just put a couple of holes in the paper cone and feed these wires right through from the top side to the back side of the basket here. And that way, I think we can get away with tying those into the opposite side without too much trouble. We'll see how it works out. Now, I had originally planned on using some felt as a surround on this, but for some reason I can't find my old stash of felt, but I did find a whole bunch of old headliner material from my Buick that I had years ago. And I think what I'm going to do is just cut a piece out around here to make a surround. And that way, even though the nap is a little high on this, I think I can trim that down with an electric hair clipper and make it short. But this has a really nice, flexible and durable backing to it, cloth backing, and that should make a really nice surround. So I'm going to get started on cutting this out. I think, actually, since this fits in there so nicely, it just goes right in there like that. As you can see, this will make a fantastic template. And we will get our marker out here. And okay, I'll do that, and then, yeah, might have to shorten there, tighten that up a little bit, but we'll do that later. Another thing I really wanted to do was maybe put some cotton in this thing to keep the junk out. I made a non-metallic tool here. Yeah, I think that'll work. I should keep the junk out for a while. Okay, so that's it, and as soon as I get this all cut out into shape, we'll return. All right, so now we're going to cut the nap down on this a little bit because it's a little bit too thick for my taste, and we'll get out the old electric hair clipper here. Sorry about that, headphone users. It's like cutting hair. Get the old X-Acto knife out here, and we will begin trimming around this edge, inside edge, to make our surround. Hope the camera can see this without too much trouble. There. Okay, so now we'll probably stretch that around the inside there, and that'll be our surround. If this is not stiff enough, the speaker will probably sound kind of flubby. So if that's the case, we could probably just run a little bit of rubber-based adhesive around it, and that usually stiffens up a surround somewhat. And that would take care of that problem. So, on to the next step. Now we're going to take some measurements here of the speaker side view, just so we can get an idea of how to wrap our cone. So, we're going to measure the diameter of the opening in the voice coil, and then we're going to measure the depth from the top of the voice coil to the bottom of what will be the surround of the speaker, and that will be the diameter. Okay, and so there isn't a whole lot of measurements we need, but we'll just try to make it as accurate as we can. I'm going to lower the camera a little bit here and show you up close, or at least get a better view of how I'm going to measure the depth here. And so we'll re-zero our caliper and lay the ruler across the voice coil, and we're going to extend this extension down, and it's a little depth extender, and we will measure from the outside of the frame to the top of the ruler, which will give us around 17 millimeters, and I think the ruler itself is probably, looks like it's a little over 1.4 millimeters thick, so let's call that measurement probably 18 millimeters depth. And so when we get our cone put in place, we will make it so the depth will be from here to here 18 millimeters, and that should fit in there quite nicely when we go to glue that in. And I'll probably just temporarily tape the edges together here so I can move them freely. When we get ready, then I'll glue that together. Before we get started on reconing this, I want to go over a few adhesives that we will be using and demonstrate, or at least tell you about some of the benefits of them. Probably the one I've run across recently is this white glue by Scotch. It's a 3M product, and it looks a lot like Elmer's glue, but it's not. It really dries rock hard, and it's very strong. And I think what I will use on the voice coil to the cone will be this stuff right here, because it's not supposed to run. And if you get into a situation where you need to apply glue so close to the voice coil here that you don't want any to run down inside there, because if you do that, the game is over. So you might as well throw this away and go buy you another one. But that's what I will be using for that, because like I say, it's not supposed to run, and that will work just fantastic. Now, while we're on the subject of applying the glue, I have this little applicator here which will come in really handy once you get the cone in place here. It's going to be very hard for you, get that in the camera here, right? Once you get the cone in place, it's going to be very hard for you to apply glue to the junction of where that's sitting. So I think if you use an applicator similar to this one, you can probably get right in there and apply just the right amount of what you will need through the edge of the basket here. So that will work just fantastic for that, I believe. And next on the list is a rubber-based adhesive, and commonly called contact cement, that I got this when I had placed an order with Simply Speakers for an edge kit, and I'm glad they sent this. This is really fantastic stuff, because what happens is when you apply just a rubber-based adhesive, it immediately begins to set up. And this product is specifically formulated so when you uncap it and apply it, it will give you approximately 10 to 12 minutes of times to where you can actually move around and reposition cones and surrounds and things before it begins to start becoming tacky, which is a really great benefit. After about 10 to 12 minutes, it begins to cure and harden up, and it works really great, and it's well worth the price, which for me was free for that order. Now it's almost identical to Weldwood contact cement, and it looks the same, it feels the same, but Weldwoods or any contact cement will begin to harden up, or I should say cure out, or become tacky at least, as soon as you uncap the bottle. And so you can use this, but you're going to have to be fairly quick about it. And it is recommended for surrounds and paper and things like that. It's really great stuff. If you do buy this, get it in the glass bottle. A couple of years ago, Weldwood came out, or they were using a plastic bottle, and the stuff just had a shelf life of a few weeks, I think, before it started to harden up inside the bottle. But they since went to the glass bottle, and that the shelf life's a lot better on that now. The other product you could use is some kind of what I call an Elmer's glue type thing, a white glue, a craft glue. This is Tight Bond for wood, but it works great for paper. You can put it on, it will dry, goes on yellow, but it will dry to a clear consistency. So those are the products we will be using on this recone. Well, now everybody, we're going to embark on what will be the most difficult part of this whole video, and that is getting the angle of the cone straight. Now, I've noticed in just practicing with this, in pulling the cone together like so, that it does deform somewhat the center hole. And it's probably because we have too much overlap on the edges here. So I'm going to trim off all but about maybe a quarter of an inch of that. And we'll see if that will help out somewhat on, I don't know if it will or not, but we'll give it a try. We'll try to glue that together too. And another thing I did was I made a little gauge here that offsets this just enough to where we can slide it under there and kind of tell what the depth of our cone should be. And it's right at 18 millimeters. And I'll show that to you again. It's be this area right in here. Somewhere between 17 and 18 millimeters, I think will probably be plenty. I did have to decrease the width somewhat. We originally measured it at 100 millimeters, but I found that when you actually drop the cone in place on there, it has to be somewhat smaller, so it will clear the basket a little bit. And otherwise the cone will sit there and it'll vibrate on the edge of the basket, and we do not want that. So we're going to try it this way, and we're going to see what really happens. And so just as a temporary thing here, I'm going to pull this over and put some tape on it. And we're going to see if we're even in the ballpark here of this. So that will fit roughly about right there. And that may be too much. Yeah, that's too much angle. Let's pull this tape off and maybe try it outwards here a little bit. maybe to right there. Slide it under the ruler here. That's pretty close. It does go under the gauge, and see how it fits on top of there. Yeah, that fits pretty well. We may have to play with it a little bit, but I think we're going to go with that. I've got a mark there to where I had it before, and I'm going to make another mark here. Cross those out. And I think we're going to try and glue that in that position. And see if somehow we can keep that even enough to where it won't buckle on this end here. That may be hard. Well, I never said it would be easy, but we'll give it a try. This may be a fail, who knows. Well, this did turn out to be kind of a fail. Looking at the voice coil, or the cone here, and what I'm seeing is a very subtle asymmetrical cone, and that did not fit well over the voice coil. So I decided to redo it. Actually, I decided a couple of times to redo it until I came up with a just the right technique. And this is the end result here. And so I'm going to show you how to do this, but it's going to take another video. I'm going to make a part 2 of this video, and as soon as I get all set up to do that, we'll get started. And if that sounds interesting to you, just click on the link right here, and it'll take you to part 2, and we'll continue. And I apologize for the length of it. Videos always seem to turn out a lot longer than you expected. So we're going to go with part 2, and we'll see you there in just a few minutes.